My name is Charisma Fondu. This is my assessment on the Equifax data breach. Equifax stats. The Equifax affected 147 million people, or over 40% of the U.S. adult population. They suffered financial losses. Their 125 million cybersecurity insurance policy wasn't enough to cover the breach. Therefore, the company maxed out its payout and spent an additional $1.4 billion to clean up the mess and revamp its IT systems. Then a class action lawsuit with the Federal Trade Commission saw Equifax agree to a $1.38 billion settlement to resolve customers' claims. In January 2020, the company settled for a $1.38 billion. Equifax also agreed to pay for 4 years of credit monitoring for affected clients. Equifax overview. On March 8, 2017, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Computer Readiness Team sent Equifax and many others a notice about need to patch a particular vulnerability in certain versions of the software used by the business. Equifax used this software called Apache Struts, which is an online disputes portal, a website where consumers can dispute items on their credit report. On March 9, 2017, there was an internal notification in Equifax Security Department requiring a patch that needed to occur within 40 hours. We now know that the Apache Struts vulnerability was not identified or patched in response to the internal March 9th notification to information technology personnel. Equifax vulnerability exploited. Attackers exploited a known vulnerability in Apache Struts, a widely used open source framework building web applications. This specific vulnerability, identified as CVE 2017-5638, allowed attackers to execute arbitrary code on the server by sending specially crafted HTTP requests. This vulnerability had been disclosed and patched months before the breach, but Equifax failed to apply the patch in a timely manner. Organizational and governance issues. There are a few key points that contributed to organizational and governance issues, which are as follows: failure in patch management, weak network segmentation, poor data governance, and lack of effective detection and response. In failure of patch management, the company had an outdated recipient list for security alerts, meaning the notification about the vulnerability never reached the right personnel. This allowed them to access 51 databases and extract data over 76 days without detection. Equifax intrusion detection systems failed to recognize the breach in real time. Major causes of the Equifax breach of 2017. The major root cause of the Equifax breach was the failure to patch known vulnerabilities in Apache Struts, specifically CVE 2017-5638. This vulnerability allowed attackers to execute remote code on Equifax systems, ultimately leading to exfiltration of sensitive data. Attackers exploited this flaw by sending malicious code within an HTTP content type header, which was then executed on the Apache Struts server. Equifax did not apply the patch in time, leaving the system exposed. Equifax had network security monitoring tools that were supposed to detect anomalies, but an expired TLS certificate prevented proper inspection, and encrypted traffic allowed attackers to exfiltrate data undetected for months. Delayed detection and disclosure. The breach went undetected for months, and Equifax waited over a month to notify the public after discovering it. Further delayed response will equate to this possible scenario happening, which would lead to their systems being breached further and causing maximum damage to all of their systems. Inadequate incident response. Equifax response included a confusing website for affected consumers and poorly communicated credit monitoring offers. Additionally, their offer of free credit monitoring came with terms that initially waived consumers' right to sue. Insider trading allegations state several Equifax executives sold stock before the breach was publicly disclosed, raising concerns about the insider trading. Preventative measures. Here are some preventative measures that could have lessened the impact of the breach, which are as follows: zero trust architecture and granular access control. Zero trust architecture, when adopting these principles, would have minimized unauthorized lateral movement by requiring continuous authentication and strict access control across systems. Granular access control restricts users' access to only the systems and data necessary for their role. Lessons learned from the Equifax breach. Lessons that I've learned from the Equifax data breach, which are as follows. Patch management and incident response must be swift and transparent. Patch management is critical, which states the breach was caused by failure to patch known vulnerabilities in Apache struts, highlighting the importance of timely updates. Incident response must be swift and transparent. This states the Equifax delayed notifying affected individuals, which worsened public trust and regular scrutiny. This means there is a need to go beyond compliance and cybersecurity efforts. This concludes my presentation on Equifax data breach.